Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now. It's the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. Folks, I'm very excited to be here with you. Exciting times. I also have some water microwaving, so I'm going to jump up for that. If you're watching this on a replay, just know that all the time codes are in the video description below, so if you want to skip to any part, you can jump down there, and there you are. Folks, very happy to be here with you today. This is my first day back from this pretty intensive psychedelic journey that I just did this weekend with a guide, and sort of recombobulating, I guess would be the general term. Ooh, that means my water's ready. Give me 30 seconds. I'm going to be right back. Yeah. Got that water. What's up, folks? Okay, so as we begin here, folks, here's what I want to know. Where are you? You know where I am. And what am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I don't need to be so coherent. You know, that's the thing coming out of one of these journeys, is that life tends to want to demand that you're sort of pretty put together, and the system wants to kind of get into its old habits of like selfing and worlding and these kind of things. So I'm a little less inclined to do that today, and I'm glad that I don't have to. That's what I'm grateful for. So folks, where are you joining us from, and what on earth are you grateful for? Let's see, what else is going on here? People are trickling in. Nice to see you. What else is going on? I think I can actually see who's here, even if they're not chatting back, the lurkers, which is fine. There's no, you're free to lurk. I'm always curious. But so, folks, let's see, what are my thought processes here? Yeah, so I just came back from this large psychedelic journey, which I mentioned, and the net result of that is that I feel like I could sort of be like, let's like push in there and like kind of pull the whole thing together, but I'm kind of more like in the loosey-goosey mode, so I want to stay there and let the system sort of integrate on its own time. Hello, chillin' in the home quarantine in Carlstad. Welcome back. Thank you so much. Grateful for tea. I'm grateful for this is very what do we call this? This is like a extra light, or extra light tea, hot water. So delicious. It's funny that water has a flavor. Seems like one of those like deep shower thoughts, but it is funny. Okay, folks, so what else is going on? Jean joining us here from Brooklyn. Grateful for good friends. That's lovely. Yeah, I got to see some friends this weekend. I'm getting to be more close friends with a guide and their whole family, which is nice. And I get to hang out with those folks, and I got to see a friend who lives in Connecticut while I was in that direction. That was nice to excuse me. That was nice to go see them. Julia is joining us, turning in from Vienna, Austria. Grateful for insight into suffering, hedonic adaptation, etc. Very interesting. We're actually going to be talking about that today. I was actually going to talk about the topic here that we're going to chat about is Buddha nature. And what I almost made the topic is why I chose suffering, or rather why I chose pain over bliss. That was a central theme in this this last journey, was choosing, intentionally accepting difficult sensations over more pleasant ones. Let me see here. That was pretty central in this journey. Zen Mind says, hello from the Bronx. I missed Denny here. Hello from Harlem. Great to see you again, Denny. Grateful for a sunny day we had yesterday in New York City. It was a lovely day yesterday. I was further north, but I still enjoyed it. So, hello, Zen Mind from the Bronx. It's funny, Zen Mind, I didn't realize you're in the Bronx because Denny is in Harlem and Jean is in Brooklyn. It's funny what a strong New York, and then Airplane John, who's not here today, is in geez, where's Airplane John? Is he in Queens? I forget if he's in. I think he might be in Queens. So we have such a strong New York contingent, so that's great. Zen Mind, welcome. Oh, P.S. Zen Mind. Last stream, I think it was last stream or the one before that. You're like, oh, maybe it was a few before that. I can't remember. You're like, I want to do an advanced meditation. That's what I want to do. And then we did a meditation, but then I didn't hear from you afterwards. I didn't know if you did the advanced meditation. So yeah, we need a Staten Island viewer to complete the set. Yeah, it's true. If we someone from Staten Island, I should just, people often advertise these things. I never advertised. Maybe I could just pay for some ads in Long Island or Staten Island to get the whole set. And we can just go out state by state. We can just like go up Jersey and Connecticut. Just like we need one from each representatives, and then we'll have our own little, model Senate here, and then we can formally do our own impeachment. Folks, very excited to be here. Very excited for today's meditation. I actually wanted to talk about something that I was chatting on, what is it called, on Reddit about. Somebody's asking a question. I was answering on Reddit. And I'm going to chat about that. So we're going to talk about what is Buddha nature. Let's see. Go around with an alms bowl. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good way. It's funny when you see it's funny and also awesome when you see like urban monks, especially in the United States, like going around doing alms, because it's so foreign. It's just funny when you compare it to like in Asia when not everybody, but a lot of people, a lot of people get up in the morning to feed monks, and they make huge amounts of. I mean, there'll be villagers. Often these people are very, very poor. Often the monasteries are in places that are like kind of in the middle of nowhere, and so the population around is often very poor. But they'll just make these giant containers of rice and just be like handing out rice, each person, rice. So it's very powerful. So the point of it all is, though, that alms round would be kind of fun. Folks, we're going to meditate today, and I am going to indulge myself today. I want to meditate specifically around something that I did a little while back, around preferring and around showing the system that this is directly related to the Buddha nature topic. We're going to look for the parts of the system that have preference or clinging or desire or wanting, and introduce those parts to the whole, and introduce those parts to the part of us that doesn't need anything to be different. And it's helpful to know, it's a really helpful skill to know this part of my system is wanting, even if we don't follow that train of thought. To know that that part of the system is wanting is very powerful, because it shows us, basically it leads us to have access and connection to Buddha nature, and then say, is there some dust on the lens, or is it my TV? I don't know. Let me take a look here. No, I mean, seems pretty good. I don't see any. Maybe is it a little out of focus because I'm a little bit further back? That's possible. I don't think there is dust on the lens, though. Is there? No, I don't think there is. So I'm a little shorter than usual. My cushion crunched down. So, folks, that's the general breakdown in order to connect us with Buddha nature. So, folks, we're going to practice for 25 minutes. I'm going to encourage folks to practice in stillness, finding a way to hold the body that arrange the body well so you don't have to move. We do this by stacking the spine, making sure the knees are lower than the hips. What else? Balancing through the tailbone, through the crown of the head. And you're allowed to move. You're allowed to make an adjustment under certain circumstances. Check. I'm making sure the mic levels are good. Okay. You're allowed to move under certain circumstances, specifically if... What happened? If you feel overwhelmed at all, feel free to move. If you feel like it's whatever thing is feeling distracting is so distracting that it's causing you to, not be able to meditate, then in that case, you can also move, but just take a minute or so before you decide to do that. I'm transparent, so the light shines right through. Exactly. I was telling somebody, telling Denny today that the job of a good teacher is to be transparent, and then I thought it was sort of funny that I was like talking about like straight up transparency. So point is, folks, we'll meditate for 25 minutes, and then we'll chit chat like kitty cats. Take any final sips of your super light tea. And silence any noise-making devices. And then we'll begin. Okay, here we go. I'll just mention, this has happened before, so I'm just suddenly realizing the last time I came back from one of the psychedelic journeys, I was a little discombobulated like I am now, and I remember I forgot every single thing. I forgot to put the timer on, I forgot to hit record, all of these layers. So I'm just we're in for a little bit of a bumpy ride probably, but that's fine. We'll survive. So we'll begin, and we'll probably have a few technical things come up because I'm a little spacey. Let's begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. Each time we arrive at a meditation, we arrive with the momentum of all of the previous moments. And we can't possibly tell what all of those causes and conditions were. They are stretching back infinitely far beyond our own birth. But we can tell what the result of all these causes and conditions are. Whatever sense activity is coming into consciousness, this is the effect of all of these causes. And the decisions we make, the way that we interact with this particular moment will shape, sculpt, create the experience of all the preceding moments. So one of the most skillful things we can do is to attend very closely to these particular sensations. The body simply breathing, relaxing. So beginning by physically relaxing the body, relaxing the neck and head, the shoulders and arms, the hands, letting go of any attempt to control the breath. And noticing the natural tightening and relaxing of the upper chest and upper back as the breath comes and goes. Relaxing the belly and the lower belly. And relaxing the lower belly so much that it actually relaxes the tailbone. Noticing that this can spread right into relaxing the hips, the upper legs, knees, calves, and relaxing the feet. And then physically relaxing the entire body more than we can physically feel. So even if it feels like we've already relaxed, know that we can actually let go much more down to the level of the bone. Letting go so deeply it could feel like the muscles would just float away from the bone. And relaxing everywhere in the body, not any particular part, but intentionally relaxing in all directions, all muscles together. Guiding us to a soft, general sense of the overall body. And so we'll stay with the experience of the overall body. A kind of soft snapshot of all body sensation, including emotion. And what will likely happen is, at certain moments, the mind will be pulled towards some particular detail. For instance, the sensations in the left hand or the right foot. And all we do is simply reintroduce the rest of the body sensations, allowing the mind to include more sense data until we find the whole body. Not being so fussy. Doesn't have to be a perfect, complete whole body. Just a soft snapshot. We'd like to use mental labels when we have contact with a general sense of the body. We can say whole. And when the mind is drawn to anything particular in the body, we can say part. Whenever we drift towards a part, labeling it, and then simply letting the mind gently include more and more sense data until we once again have a soft snapshot of the whole body. In the mind, it might sound something like whole, whole, part, part, whole. You get the idea. And neither of these is better than the other. They're simply different functions of nature, different functions of the mind. So noticing if there's some part of us that prefers, it wants the experience of the whole more than it wants the experience of the part, or the other way around. And what is this other than simply another part? Not a problem, just reintroducing it to the whole. We get distracted, which is also quite natural. Introducing that distraction to the whole. And if we'd like, we can actually include all sensing. We can stay with the body if this is easier. But when we describe whole, it can be the overall snapshot of the body or the overall snapshot of all sense data. All sound, all mental activity, body sensation, all seeing. Remembering we don't have to try to capture everything. We're not adding every little piece together. This is a part game. The game we're playing is about a soft general snapshot. might notice that this whole or overall experience has much less preferring. It simply knows the experience, whatever it is. So some part of us may be trying, efforting. They may be wanting or assessing. Maybe some part of us feels this meditation is going wonderfully or it's going terribly. But it's helpful to know that that's simply a part. And as we introduce it to this experience of the whole, noticing that the whole is free of need. Deeply neutral, simply knowing experience without push or pull. And if we don't notice that, that's fine. Simply attending to the part of us or parts of us that do seem to need or prefer, even extremely subtly. Even subtle emotions in the body. Are forms of need. So to find the part of us that doesn't need, that doesn't prefer. This is contact with what we might call Buddha nature. This is the nature of being. The clear and perfect diamond through which the world can shine and be reflected, but which does not need it to change. And at first we might see the various wants and needs, these very subtle pushes and pulls of the mind, pulling us to little parts. We might see these as a kind of mud obscuring the diamond, something in the way. What in fact these difficulties, these subtle yearnings, these are simply facets of the diamond. These two are nature. To recognize any part as nature, any desire, any clinging. Of course. Accepting that at times we want or don't want. This is the nature of being. parts of us that are pushing and pulling. Do not obscure the path. They are the path. So if we imagine that for the rest of eternity, all we would experience is this precise moment. Nothing would ever change, or we would never get anything else. All of the goodies we like in life, we're not going to have those. We just have this moment. Notice that thought can make the system yearn, want something else. Mourn. Wish for something more than this. All that is a part. So to recognize that that part is nature. That clinging or wanting is pure. Exactly as it is. And accepting that. This is freedom. And if we can't accept that, that's fine. Accepting the part that can't accept it. Of course, you can't accept it. That too is nature. And perhaps today is not a day for acceptance. Perhaps what we find today is subtle resistance. And that's okay. This moment doesn't need you to be any different. And even the part of you that might feel like it needs something to be different, That part's fine. It's okay. And staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes. Again, staying with the practice. Eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point that's not text, it's not a screen. Once again, recognizing that we shape our mind. We shape our experience, and what we choose in this moment will shape all of the preceding moments. So just for a moment, as silly as it might sound, we're going to simply wish our entire system, the entire body-mind, peace. In the mind, we can simply say, may you be peaceful. A few times, repeating it towards ourselves. And letting go of that, recognizing that this particular moment, as we sit here with our eyes open, it's just like the meditation. The mind is drawn to parts. Sometimes the mind finds and captures the whole. There are parts of us that want. And all of this is nature. So letting this particular moment show us how to integrate, how to bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay, folks. So what was that experience like? What happened? And what do you like now? If you're new here to the stream, just know reporting your meditation is an essential and powerful way to advance your meditation practice. So use those digits, use your digital technology to type in the chat what that experience was like, or if you would like, you can jump on Discord and we can chit-chat like kitty cats vocally using the old talk box. Communicating the old-fashioned way through a live stream, through Discord, over the internet, through satellites, internationally, like they did in the olden days. Let's see here. Let me give you a fresh little invite here. I've yet to fix this prompt. Beep up, up, beep up, up. Here we go. Excellente. Yeah, feel free to jump on if you want, and we'll go from there. What else? Beep up, up, beep up, up, up. Yeah, so what was that experience like? What happened? What do you like now? Folks, I've discovered something. My recorder that I use, this is why you can hear the microphone. It's through a preamp recorder, whatever. I dropped it this weekend on my trip. I took it with me. I wanted to record the journey. It didn't work. I just found out two reasons it didn't work. One, the card that I had didn't function. I was like, why is it not functioning? This is after I dropped it. But it's had a little trouble before, so I thought maybe that was normal. And then I just hit the record button now, and it just did nothing. So I think it's totally screwed. I think I have to get a new one. So that's a fun fact. So there's that. Folks, what was that like? What happened, and what do you like now? That's what I want to know. What on earth was that like? That was fun for me. I noticed, I'm not going to talk extensively about what happened on the psychedelic journey. I think I'm going to do that Wednesday. I just still feel pretty, I'll talk about it generally. I don't want to give the full report, in part because I save these videos and I have a whole series about like reporting on what happened, and I don't want to split it up. So I don't want to talk about half of it now. I'll talk about some, but I just want an actual report of what happened. The full report, I want to do that either Wednesday or Friday. But I will talk about that it was very intense, and I'll talk about the Buddha nature part. And I think part of the result of coming out of that, because you don't always come out and you're like, yay, I'm just sunshine, like it's challenging. And I think part of coming out of that is I'm really noticing the part of me that feels like something's wrong. And that was a big component in the journey. I was observing this part that's sort of very subtle way down there that's like something is totally wrong. And a lot of the journey really was around an exploration of Buddha nature, because I could tell that using meditation, we talked about this in the last stream, I could tell that using meditation, I could feel pain, feel difficult pain in a way that was actually very peaceful and pleasurable, like using awareness. It was totally available. It was just the slightest little bit of efforting. But for some reason, it seemed very important to just not interfere. And so I just did nothing at all, and all this pain, emotional, like intense emotional pain was arising, and I just did not intervene at all. And it was just like hours and hours and hours. I mean, it was like at least 5 hours of just not intervening, basically doing like a do nothing practice, and then just being shocked at like how intense the pain was. So if this sounds enticing, people are like, yes, tell me, I want to do this. Then we can talk about that. But no, that's not everyone's experience. Obviously, this was just my experience for part of the journey, for the second half of the journey. And beep pop pop is what is the thing? Yeah, so that was that's, and somebody asked today about Buddha nature, and that really struck me, is that what I found was there is, and again, I don't want to go super into detail, but I'll answer any questions anyone has. That there is this, what happened, and I'll go into the detail specifics of this, was that, and I'll cover this again in the real, what is it called, report that I give on Wednesday or whatever. But at some point I was like, there's like, this isn't enough, of the medicine to break through. I need more in order to break through. And I knew that there was no more coming. And I was like, maybe I could ask and the guide would give me more, like whatever. There's some part of me that was like that. And I was like, there is no more. And it was just sort of like, okay, I'm just going to recognize there's no more. And I was like, yeah, but this part really wants this. And it just sort of, I saw this part that was just like, I want something else. It has to be more than this. It can't be this. And it was just like, I saw how universal that was, like subtly throughout like so many experiences. And it was just this, and I was like, look how desperate that part is. It's like, no, this moment's challenging. And I realized at some point, I'm totally going into it, I realized at some point that yearning is stress. That's what stress is. It's like, no, something else. And it was just, I just did nothing. Nope, there's nothing else. I'm not doing anything for you. And the system was just like, incredible waves and waves of pain. So it was actually incredible. I really, really appreciated it. And that's part of the experience. But I'm going to go into the details, because the first half was very cool, very weird, very worthwhile. And then the second half was that, and I can kind of go into more detail about exactly that part. So let's hear. Exalted, our friend, says,
if you don't have any history of trauma and you're not...
Nope, that is a different thing I was listening to. Here is Exalted saying,
how long have you been foggy for? Do you experience similar fog after long periods of meditation?
Yeah, I mean, you can. I think that I'll experience similar fogs depending on what happens in the meditation, and that can happen. The system is just basically very diffuse. It's just not reorganizing, and the system can be very floaty. And I think what's helpful to do in those times is know that we can reorganize. We can just be and like snap into being a self. But it's also helpful to know that the system will operate without you really being there, without you doing anything. That was something that happened at the end of the last two journeys. I was like, it was time to like get up and kind of reorganize and do stuff and, whatever, put your coat on and all that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like there's so much, I don't want to do it. And I was like, you know what? You don't have to do it. Just let someone else do it. And I was like, okay. And I like stopped, and all of a sudden my system's like gets up and starts doing stuff. And so it's like, I don't have to manage this. And part of the struggle is the system wants to run on its own. And the mind is like, you have to manage this, go manage it. And actually you don't. So that's one of the big pieces of permission that we need, is that we don't actually have to manage it. Denny says,
this sit was one of the most mentally noisy sits I've had in a few weeks. Grateful for the opportunity to feel humbled by the practice, but can also feel some mild frustration throughout the body, but it's not really unpleasant.
Yeah. I really tend to wonder about, excuse me, transference and countertransference with meditation. And I really have never figured that out. I don't know if there would be any way to really study that, but my experience right now is that part of me that's like agitated, something is up, like something's going on, is at the foreground. And as I'm sort of going through, a lot of the process was knowing I've had history of contacting the part that doesn't need anything to change. But right now, the part that's like, something's wrong, is just like its voice is louder than the other voices. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if that like transfers over just by some sort of subtle body language thing or whatever. So if that's the case, I'm sorry. And also just know that for me, it's totally fine. So I'm happy that you're here with us either way. So Julia says,
I was pretty relaxed, except for the back of my tongue, which kept tensing up during the whole meditation. In the first half, there wasn't so much clinging but some surprisingly strong waves of pain over little things, paying 70C for a stamp. In the second half, bigger stuff came up, and on connecting that with awareness, I actually cried a little.
Yeah, and that little stuff I think is really important. I think that, I was talking with Jean about this a little while ago, and we're talking about like, what do we mean by clinging? And it's it goes from the like, I really want X, Y, or Z, to like really, really subtle stuff, like incredibly subtle stuff. So yeah, like, it was just so interesting during the journey. Again, I remember basically at some point I realized like I had to go pee, and that's like normal. You just kind of crawl over to the bathroom. It's like a few feet away, and you go pee, and then you come back, and I could at any point. Oh, we got a new follow here from Hunan Hunded 1381. Hunded, is that who? I want to make sure that, yeah, okay, great. Thank you so much for the follow. Very nice to have you here. So basically there was like this sort of need arising. The body would feel a sensation and be like, no, you need to do something. And it's like very subtle. It'll be like, okay, there's a thing. Oh, there's a sensation. Oh, there's a sensation. And you're supposed to do something. So, if you want to detect really subtle need, just don't blink. Go ahead right now. Just don't blink. And very quickly, the body starts producing a more and more intense need to blink. It's like, no, we got to blink. Try not breathing, right? That one will come up pretty quickly. So the system is constantly, well, you can blink, Everyone's like, he didn't say don't blink. It's like the Beyonce song. It's like, I've been waiting in formation for 4 years now. What do I do now, Beyonce? Yeah. So we're constantly pushed and pulled by these very subtle sensations, clinging and aversion, pushing and pulling. And so I noticed that like I wouldn't breathe during the journey if I didn't I could breathe sort of intentionally, but I could also not do anything, and the body would just stop breathing. And I was like, maybe this is bad. I was like, well, I made an intention to not do anything, so here we go. And eventually the system would just go on its own. And I was like, oh, okay, so the system will actually do this on its own, but there's some part of me that feels like I have to do it. And so it can be very, very subtle, but that's great that you were able to notice that kind of subtlety. And paying 70 cents for a stamp, that's the exact kind of stuff that's like, oh, like I had, yeah, whatever. I can talk about more of these things, but in the second half, some bigger stuff came up, and you actually cried a little. Well, that's very sweet, and that allowing is very powerful. What I also noticed, yeah, I'll leave it there. Okay. Gene, we just speak of the devil we were just talking about.
My concentration was at a medium level for most of the meditation. Always happy to hear that nothing needs to change message, but especially appreciated it today. I definitely didn't start with that mindset, was feeling slightly agitated.
Mm-hmm.
Looking ahead, I am interested to hearing more about your journey on WEDS.
And I hope that this happened one other time too. I was like, I'm going to do this on Wednesday. I was like, I'll do it on Monday. And I was like, I'm going to do it on Wednesday. And eventually it was like Friday that it actually happened, because I like to listen back to the whole recording and actually talk about all the pieces. There were some really interesting pieces. There's some interesting stuff came up around gender that was very interesting, that I would like be a little bit nervous about talking about, but I think I'll just talk about it. What the fuck? What the hell? Okay. At Awake says...
Felt lovely soft release from this practice. I focused on the phrase, no preference, which I have done before from Rob Burby's Seeing That Freeze book PG 237. And this released craving I had for this sit to go more pleasurable. His no preference practice is based on text from Third Zen Patriarch. You may know this one.
Let's take a listen. That's great. I actually, I respect and like Rob Burby. I don't know him super well, so this is nice to hear, because this is important stuff.
The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinion for or against.
That's great. Yeah, and I think that it's like turtles all the way down. It's like hold no preference. But of course, you probably hold a preference. So hold no preference for that. Recognize, yeah, the system is preferring right now. That's fine. Of course. That's okay. I can let it prefer. And if you can't do that, just say, great. Oh, of course I can't let it prefer. I don't know how to do that. Great. And you just, wherever that is, you start from there, because so much of the unconscious clinging is just unconscious. It's just behind the surface. So if there's a self back there, you can just say, oh, there's a self. And a self is another example of just clinging. Like if you have any sense of self or experience right now, that is a form of the system being like clamping down, even subtly. It's not bad. It's just there's clamping involved. What we want to do is what we're doing today is teaching the system that the thing, we didn't do this piece, which I feel like I wish I had mentioned this, which is the gravitational pull. Like if something feels like it's pulling into a part and it's hard to get out of that, and actually anyone who had a challenge today, this might be worthwhile doing. Whatever's pulling into a part, consider what is it pulling from? And, it's pulling, it has a central sort of force. Well, what is it pulling from? And that actually shows it the way back to the, back to awareness, what it's pulling from. So that's great. I actually want to save that quote. I want to save this quote. How do I save this quote? I'm going to send this to myself, and I'm doing it right this minute, because I promise you I will forget. And I'm going to include the part about Robert Bia, because that'll also be helpful context. Thank you for that. Hey, P.S. folks, I love when people share quotes, like a lot, because I like gathering quotes, but I just often don't get. I mean, I have the quotes I have, and then what are you doing here? What are you doing? Okay, that is white text for some reason. Okay, so excellent. So, and I love when people share quotes. I think that maybe that we'll do like a special quote day or something like that. Let's see. Great. Okay, excellent. Thank you for indulging me here. It'd be cool. I wonder if we create like a little quote library. That'd be very cool. Okay, so thank you for that, Adawake. It's very appreciated. Exalted now says,
I think I've seen a Shinzen video where he talks about going through a long period in his life where he felt like not doing anything. Before he learned some Zen thing of taking spontaneous action, or something like that. Just thought maybe it's related to what you said about being disorganized and having difficulty doing anything. Riding the ox backwards, I think was the Zen quote.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly it. That you can let the system spontaneously do the things. I was talking to somebody about this recently, which is there's very hard. It's very hard for people to realize how little volition is actually needed to exist. People are overexerting themselves all the time, which is, putting a lot of drag on the system. It burns a lot of sort of internal fuel. It's emotionally draining. It like creates more scar tissue in that direction. And the way that Shinzen teaches that and talks about it is in the realm of auto or spontaneity. And so how I'll teach that is very sort of mechanical, which is okay, you can do this now. Let's do this exercise. I want everyone to see this very experientially. I don't want this to be some theoretical thing that we talk about. So take your hand, so you can see it in front of you. I'm holding my hand up. You don't have to do that, but I'm holding it so you can see it. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be controlling with volition my thumb. That's the only thing I'm going to control. And that's my job, is just to control my thumb. Everything else I'm going to let happen as it will. My job is going to be to very quickly, I'm going to be jumping to finger, and I'm going to be touching each finger. Okay, it doesn't matter what order, but I'm going to be going very quickly. Okay, so go ahead and do this and observe. And you're only trying to move the thumb. Put all of your, whatever effort you have is just adjusting and moving the thumb to reach the other fingers. And notice that the thumb is sort of a dumb digit. It like moves and gets, it sort of doesn't move very well. If you get tired, you can switch hands. It's a dumb digit. The other digits they have a lot more sort of dexterity and flexibility, and I'm not trying to move my fingers at all. I'm moving my thumb. And so part of this, you can stop whenever you want. You can do that to observe. You can try walking like that. Those kind of things. If you observe the part you're doing, the volitional part, we start to realize that that's very limited. It is not a strong part of our experience. Most of it is actually the spontaneous part. So what I typically do is have people label do for the volitional part and go for the part that goes on its own. So you have a one syllable label, and you just label one very clearly. And typically the rule of contrast is the mind will show you the opposite. Right now I was saying pay attention to the control part, and your mind is like, wait a minute, what about this whole part is not controlling? It's like very clear very quickly. So and then you can say, hey, let's look at the spontaneous part. I'm just going to look at the part that's spontaneous. And all of a sudden the mind will say, no, I'm controlling all of this. So it'll show you the opposite. It's a very good trick, is to look for the opposite and to see the other thing. So that's a great way to actually find that spontaneous experience. And so after a while, you can get so used to it. So I'm generally doing it right now, but right now what I can do is let go of the volition to control whatever's happening. And the volition kind of pops up every once in a while to sort of, or I don't know, to whatever, but it seems like there's part of the system that thinks it's controlling what I'm saying right now. It thinks it's managing my experience or my hand movements, etc. And there's another part that's simply connecting with sort of an imagined sense of you, and then letting the system sort of do all the work to connect, because we just had an exchange of ideas, and the system is sort of building all these ideas back and forth and flashing images, etc. But I'm not really controlling that. So you get used to riding the spontaneity in that way. So that experience I just had and just did, sort of talking spontaneously, there were just flashes of volition in there. There were little moments, and it was the contrast thing where I was like, oh, I'm just letting the system do it. And it would just flash, oh, you're controlling this part. It's like, not really. It's like a tiny little percentage even seemed under control. Whether it was or not is like entirely up in the air. It would be totally possible that even the things we think that we're controlling are just the mind telling us we are controlling this, versus that we actually are controlling it. Julia says,
so can we take goal-oriented action without craving? Maybe related, can we change behavior without fighting, pushing against it?
Yeah, so this is a central question that comes up in Buddhism, because we're talking about non-intervention. So the answer is absolutely yes, we can take action without clinging. The other thing is that sometimes we see, okay, there is clinging happening, and we accept that and observe that. Sometimes that's the way that we get around that, is we say, oh, look, the system is clinging. It's okay to cling. It's just, if we can't escape from it, then it's not freedom, because we think that, oh, if I want this thing and I get the thing, that's freedom, then life is better. I want the phone, I get the phone, freedom. If I want the things I want and then get those things, then life will be better. But wanting doesn't care if you're happy, right? Wanting just wants. And so we can recognize, the system is wanting. Like right now my mind is wanting to sort of demonstrate this thing. It's like, oh, I want to demonstrate this in some physical way. And I can recognize that that's happening and say, okay, look, the system is wanting to do it. And as I'm observing the wanting, I can then say, okay, the system wants to pick this thing up. It wants to move it, and it's also moving it. This is the spontaneous part. It is doing it, right? So there's the wanting, but it's not necessarily connected to the doing. Eros, thank you so much for the follow. It's very kind of you. Appreciate that. So they do not have to be connected. And it's also good to know that wanting is what is it called? It's nature. We see what happens is we say like clinging aversion bad. Like I've read a page on Buddhism. I know all about this. It's like, no, clinging aversion. I was going to say good, but not good, neutral, right? Clinging aversion is just nature. It's just nature pushing and pulling. What happens is we say, like saying clinging aversion bad, Jesus Christ, well, what is that except another layer of clinging and aversion? It's like, at some point we have to get off the ride. So it's like, yes, clinging aversion, nature. Of course. Like, feel how relieving this is. Notice any clinging aversion, any wanting. I want something, whatever, and just accept, of course I'm wanting. Yeah. Yep. There's the system wanting. Yep. Totally clinging. Ooh, that's uncomfortable for you. I'm so sorry to hear that. That little bit of distance and just acceptance can feel so relieving. So just know that clinging is nature. Exalted Bro says, OMG, that's so cool. I'm glad. I try to move my thumb and instead my fingers move on their own. I know, and it's just a very direct example. That's the whole thing. We think we're controlling so much of this, but are we really? Let's see here. What is this? Julia says.
Same, and once I notice, part of my mind claims that actually I was totally moving them intentionally.
Exactly, and this is the cocky teenager version of the mind. It thinks it is so in control of everything. And I know everything. I know all about that. I mean, think about every time in our lives we think like, I know all about that. I know how reality works. I'm smart. Like, I got this thing on lock. But then we're like, okay, we're no longer 4 years old and we don't have reality on lock or whatever age we sort of, the teenager age where we're like, yeah, I know how this works. And then years later, we're like, oof, you were pretty dumb. Like you were pretty foolish, little one. And now we're like, but I know how it works now. That's the teenage, sort of cocky teenage part of the mind that's like, no, I'm in control. I know how this is. This is what reality's like. It tells us, rather than questioning, like, what is this experience, which is what insight meditation is. It says, I know what this experience is. It's boring. It's my ordinary life. It's like, but that's not the case. So anyway, that's my general breakdown there. Jean has a little question here.
I also wanted to share how doing these sits has been informing my yoga practice. A few weeks ago I reported what seemed minor. I felt a mild sense of discomfort in my left inner thigh. Instead of making a physical adjustment, I sat with it, which made me become super aware that it was a tightness deep down. I've been leaning into that tightness during yoga. It has been loosening up not only the hip but my knee, ankle, and lower back. Haven't had any strong old emotions come up yet.
Great. And that's, sometimes emotion is tied to like those sort of tighter places, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just tightening, and maybe there's a tightening in the hips, but the emotion is held somewhere else, but there's a close relationship there. I've really been into, maybe this is something you do, is yin yoga, where like you'll get into a pose and you just stay there for 5 minutes. I actually did a bunch of, we got a new follow here from Sam Mai. Nice to meet you. And maybe it's Sammy. Samay? Sammy Mai. Welcome. Great to see you. So before the journey, I actually did some yin yoga, and beep up. What was I going to say? Oh, so you sit in this position like a pigeon position or whatever. Some people call it dragon, but you sit in that position and you just stay there and you stay there. And at some point, I realize, wait a minute, the whole reason this is like hurting or like is difficult is because I'm holding. It's like I'm like laying there and I'm like, it hurts, and I'm like, why am I holding there? And I'm like, oh, and I let go at this much deeper level, not even realizing I was resisting, and then again, and then again, and then again. And so that's why it gets into the deep fascial tissues, because we find these places that we're holding that we didn't even know was the case. Eros 404 says, hey, sorry, but how I win points of the channel. Okay, so apparently, how you win points in this channel, apparently this is set up that if you comment and chat, it gives you points down at the chat, down at the bottom of the chat box, and it says claim your points. And then, let's see here, introduce channel points, watch, I don't know if this thinks that does this think it's me? Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe I haven't set it up. Maybe I failed. Sorry, guys. If I failed, then I'm going to work on that, because that's fun. Is when you have channel points and stuff, and you can do different things. Okay. 404 says, "Oh, now I know. Sorry for asking." Well, thank you. Tell me. I don't know. Sheesh, maybe I'm all wrong. Jean says, "Yep, I love Yin Yoga." And Long Jumping Train says, "Hello, Long Jumping Train. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to have you here. We have a lovely group of folks hanging out, talking about meditation and how to make our lives better, how to have fun, how to have a good time, and explore consciousness in a way that is exciting and interesting. So thank you so much for joining. Eros 404, thank you. That's a good, I just realized that's a clever name because it's 404 error. That's great. Good job. Good job, Internet. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you folks. Let's see. Is this set up? Is this set up and you get points just for watching the stream? You know, it might already be set up. I have to find out because it's asking me like unlock points, and I think it might think that I'm a viewer, but whatever. I think you get points through commenting, and that's how you get points. So I should tell people that, or something like that. Do I teach TMI? I'll answer that when I see your second thing. Thanks for the warm welcome. So I do not teach formal TMI. I have taken the TMI, course, the guide course. I think it's like, I don't know. Either way, I took the course with some of the original founding folks. I've met and spent a little bit of time with Culadasa. I did an interview with him a while back. I never published it because I never edited it. You guys, the number of things that I have recorded that are not edited, editing is so like it's really fun, but it's time consuming. He also he talks about, this is before his scandal came out, and he talks about like sort of morality and sexuality and this stuff. So I mean, maybe it's worth just putting out because. So the point of it is, beep, bop, 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 is what was I talking about? I don't teach strict TMI, but I use a lot of the same tools, and having done a good chunk of TMI. Just so you folks know, I'm talking about a system called the Mind Illuminated by a teacher named Culadasa. I teach a lot of the pieces, and I teach them in different ways, but what I teach is much, much broader. Not better, but it's broader, and it's much more about learning how to meditate in every aspect of our life, like meditate all throughout our day, meditate no matter what's coming up. There's more of an emphasis on how to bring that into our lives, meaning like how directly to use meditation for improving ourselves in the world, which is something that, scandal-prone people are soon to realize maybe they should have done more of. And how to bring the transcendent material into the fabric of all of our experiences. So hopefully that is a good time. Hopefully that's fun. And let's see here. The channel point thing, at least I'm getting points. Yeah, at least you're getting points. No, I'm saying yes, it is set up. Okay, great. Well, folks, get those goddamn points. Look at those. Look at the bottom of your screen there. There's a little bubble, and it says get some points. Eros says, I have been here for 5 minutes and I feel like I've known you for years. Well, that's very kind. I almost feel like I've known me for years too, but I just I just appeared. I really do sometimes feel like I just appeared out of a time machine, and I'm like, someone's like, this was your life, and you're like, okay, I'll go with that. I'm reading this book actually right now. It's very interesting, called Dark Matter. It's really like a page turner, and it's really like adrenaline-y. I'm like but it's about like this. I mean, it's about some of these same themes that come up in like Westworld or whatever, where it's like, how would you know if you were just shoved into a body and they told you this was your whole life, but you had no real access to it? It's like, oh, these are your memories. It's like you wouldn't know, because actually that's exactly what experience is like. Is we only have this moment where we wake up. Each moment we're like, oh my God, here I am, and we just imagine that our lives are are ours, when the only access we have to them is just a thought. So, folks, I want to mention this. Eros reminds me of this. One of the greatest ways that you can support this channel, you guys notice that I feel very loath to be like, hey, how about give me money? Like, I always feel like I teach meditation. That's where I get my funds, and this is the sort of free version. So I always feel a little bit like hesitant, and people tell me I really should just get over it, because no one asking for support is lovely, and people are happy to do it if they are happy with the thing. One of the biggest ways people could support this is just anyone you think this would be a good connection, tell them. You don't have to go out there and be an evangelist. Just say, this thing's cool, I did it, I like it. If you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself. No, I'm just kidding. That probably wouldn't go over very well, but that is always appreciated, always very kind of folks and just being here. I think number one way that folks can support is just being here, hanging out, chit-chatting like kitty cats, super fun. I mean, for Eros found like the eye money sign thing, like that's the Illuminati emoji. I mean, that's a contribution right there. Let's see here. Denny says,
it's like the idea of a Boltzmann brain, a mind that comes into being from pure chance, random fluctuations of matter.
Boltzmann. Interesting. I don't know about Boltzmann brain. Yeah, and whether it's pure chance, and I guess we would say maybe pure chance. Anyway, it gets heady. Woo, heady stuff. Folks, very exciting to be here with you. Okay, so without any further, and there can be further questions, but so now's the time. Your final questions, curiosities, difficulties, challenges. This is it, and we'll answer these, and then I'm getting rid of the internet. I know you like the internet, but no more internet. Okay, maybe I'll just end the stream. And I also have to remind myself, because basically whenever I'm doing the stream, I think about stream stuff, and then when I go away, it like disappears. I have to very quickly buy a new recorder. That is like the very next thing, because I can't record any meditations. Okay, so, come on, recorder, remind me that you exist. I'm going to send myself an email. I know it's like ridiculous, but I'm literally buy a recorder. Okay, great. Easy. Okay, great. We got more folks here chit-chatting. Okay, what is this? Okay. Long Jump says,
what is the best way to implement mindfulness into everyday life?
Okay, what's the best way to implement mindfulness in everyday life? Okay, this is going to sound like a BS answer, but it's to pay attention to this particular moment. Right now, what is this experience? What is this built out of? What's the raw data of this particular experience? The good news is that question lasts forever. What is this experience, right? You can just pretend I didn't say anything and say, well, what about this experience? What is this experience? What is this built out of? And rather than having a conceptual answer, having it be sensorial. What are these sensations? What am I feeling? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? And that's a big question, but it's so valuable. You can just use that all throughout your life. Now, we can break that down into a million little things. Something I used to do a lot when I was sort of early in meditation was just feel my hands all throughout the day. Just just a reminder, what do my hands feel like? Okay, sensations in my hands. That's a very simplified version. It's not saying what is all of this experientially. It's just what is this experience right now? What is the experience of human hands right now? And so peppering our day with all these little moments of mindfulness is very powerful, because it keeps reminding the system, and it creates a sort of momentum over time. Formal practice, like doing practice sitting together, that's very powerful, and continuing that practice after the sit. So like I said, after the sit, you'll notice that or towards the end of the sit, I have a moment where I say, open your eyes, and we'll keep practicing. And I'm sure some people don't, and that's fine, but it's very, very powerful, because we think meditation is our eyes closed and we're still and we're sitting or whatever it is. But actually, we can just meditate all the time, and we don't know that until we do it. And so right now, like we can, what was the meditation we're doing today? We're introducing little pieces of our experience to the overall experience. You can do that right now. Look at some dot or some small thing, and you can look at the detail of that thing, and then you can take in your overall sense experience. And this is a movement between attention and awareness, getting back to the TMI question. So, but you can do that right now. You don't have to just sit there and observe your breath. You can just notice that as you look around, The mind is taking in little pieces and then overall and then little pieces. So that's excellent. That's an excellent way to do it. Also, getting a group of people that you hang out with and do meditation with is very powerful. Getting to silent retreats once or twice a year, once we all are vaccinated, please. People keep asking online, they're like, is there a retreat that I could get to now, like that I could just sort of, I don't know, like sneak into, even though there was like COVID times? And I'm just like, please just stop, people. So everyone will be vaccinated soon enough. I'm actually considering teaching a retreat in September. A little nervous. I'm not sure if the if we'll actually be there yet, but I sure hope we are in September, for cripe's sake. And so that's generally what I'd say. And here's another way to get into it. Here's where is the is this how I do it? 15. Yes. Okay. There is a link to the 15. Oh my God! The computer just did it before I had just said it. But those are 15 guided meditations. Those will show you how to use every one of your sense gates individually to use meditation. So you can use hearing, seeing, hearing, feeling, any mental seeing, hearing, and feeling. Any of those sensations, basically anything you can experience, can be an object of meditation. So hopefully that is another. That is helpful. Hopefully that's a good answer. Janusz, have you thought about another Zoom retreat? I have thought about it. I should do another Zoom retreat. Maybe I'll do another Zoom retreat. Just so folks know, I mean, this is like, whatever people pressure me to do, the more you remind me of. Denny today was like, what about group mentorship? I'm like, oh yeah. So it's like, feel free. The squeaky wheel gets the, gets the oil. Thank you. I'm glad you asked the question there, Long Jump. Long Jump Train 635. Long Jump Train. I'm trying to see if there's a reference there that I'm not getting. Okay, folks. So lovely, as always, to see you. We're going to be back here, same time, same place, different day. Okay, so another person seconding the Zoom retreat. Okay, so, and it's also points of contact. So if people are emailing me and bringing it up in the stream again, it's going to be one of those things where I'm like, all right, fine. I'll pull it together and do another retreat, which are really fun. So what was I going to say? Let's see. Jean says, I got a huge amount from the last one. Well, safe at home. That is true. That is really true. That is really true. Thanks for that reminder. See, it's great. You keep reminding me. Okay, folks. Great to see you as always. So here's my wish. If anyone has never been here before, this is our tradition. How we end every session. So I have a wish for you. And the wish is, it starts out with the meditation that we just did a moment ago. So in this particular moment, someone is asking links between meditation and procrastination. Oh, links between meditation and procrastination. Here's what I'm going to have you do. I thought you were asking for certain links. I'm going to put the word links in the chat, and notice that several YouTube channels pop up there. Look at our main YouTube channel. That's the second link there. And there will be a video on procrastination and meditation that Raquel did. So that goes over it very specifically and has very specific tools. And it has another link to I'm really digging this link, dad joke, another link to a guided meditation on that topic. So that is how I would suggest working with that. Folks, my wish for you is this: in this particular moment, notice anything in particular. Could be the sound of these groovy tunes, could be the sound of my voice, could be some sight or anything. And before you let the mind just switch to the next little thing that we look at, just notice that thing and then notice it in the context of all the other things, all your body sensations, all the spaciousness around, and then let the mind take in the overall experience. Thank you, Julia, for being here. Thanks for everyone for being here. It's so lovely to have you guys today. Really fun. Really feels like home. Feels like a nice space to hang out in. It's really, I feel like this, we're creating a Sangha here, which I'm still surprised at. It's pretty fun, pretty amazing. Folks, very nice to have you as always. It is very good to be here. We'll be back here in fewer than 48 hours and very excited to hang out, chit chat like kitty cats once again, and talk about our lives. Have a good time. So, folks, as always, take care of each other, practice well, have fun, and we'll see you very, very soon.